Hello, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a little bit of a time, but nature has disappeared, and I am joined by Metas. I'm Spuddington. Just gonna say this is now the finals. We are entering the finals with very little ado beforehand. FTW versus Dignitas UK. This is the I-50 online qualifiers, and Champion Select is already underway.
Indeed it is, and I was thrown into this cast last second, ladies and gents, so I'm just going to try and get my bearing straight here. But you told me in the break, Spud, that both these teams have by and large had a very simple task getting through to the stages of the finals here. So it's going to be somewhat of a clash of the titans in the finals, because both these teams have been on a bit of a roll.
Yeah, insofar as I'm aware, Dignitas UK have dropped one game in the entire tournament. Sorry, no games, and FTW have dropped one game. So, yeah, relatively easy time they've had thus far, both of them. We do actually have some bans coming in, and I'm not surprised to see the Cassidin ban against Dignitas. Shyvana, Varus, and Shen are actually a little bit surprising, though. Varus, not such a priority ban these days, and Shen, also not a huge priority. Both solid champions, both used occasionally, but they're definitely smack to me of being targeted at specific players.
Yeah, I'm fairly confident that Varus is targeted against Crons. When myself and Pulse were casting him yesterday, he played Varus to extremely devastating effect against a Vayne actually that had been constantly had the jungle support at the bot lane and still won the lane comfortably. So Varus is certainly Cron's go-to champion, I have to feel, for AD carry. Banning that one out definitely alleviates a lot of the pressure. However, that is going to leave a few of those top tier picks available, namely Jarvan and potentially the Ahri here, alongside the Aatrox that has been locked in already for Dignitas.
So Dignitas actually favouring the Aatrox over oh no, Elise was banned. I'm blind. I thought she wasn't banned, and well, that's ruined everything. But anyway, yeah, locking in the Aatrox, not too surprising to see that. We saw it in their last set of games that we saw them in earlier on, and we've also seen it just fairly regular. Impaler really does enjoy that champion. I think it's generally that and Elise are his go-tos on that front. Jarvan the 4th and Ahri being locked in as well. Nothing too surprising, but maybe the fact that we're seeing Ahri even after the nerfs is.
Yeah, it's quite an interesting change that she got. I believe that her charm mana was cost was increased, but the damage was amplified, so it's more of a risk-reward type of situation. But regardless, we're waiting right for the last few seconds before Dignitas select their second and third picks in here. Looks like a potential Swain and Thresh, and we've seen a few Swains recently picked namely against Ahri because of the snare that Swain brings to the table is very good for eliminating Ahri's huge mobility.
Yeah, Swain in general against Ahri, it's a slightly interesting matchup in that people kind of think of it as a counter pick. Swain is good against Ahri. He's not brilliant against her at least until he's hit level 6, and that can really backfire against him. But post level 6, it becomes very much like it becomes almost impossible for Ahri to burst Swain down, because by that point he'll probably have a catalyst. He'll have the ultimate to sustain himself up, and she won't really be able to poke him down low enough to burst him, and won't really have the damage for it to 100-0 him either. Whereas Swain will have the potential to really start pushing around Ahri at that point. I certainly know DX Alchemist loves to run it, and I certainly know that Stress, who's been doing some of their analysis, is not keen on the Swain pick, but they have chosen to go for it in spite of his protests.
Yes, indeed. And on the flip side, Crons instantly locking in the Caitlyn, which also saw yesterday to very strong effect with the Jax. So I have to assume the fact that Nitrix is locked in Aatrox, and obviously Nitrix is the top laner for Dignitas UK, there's going to be Aatrox top against Jax. How do you feel that's going to fare at top lane?
Aatrox top lane is not a commonly seen thing. You put it against Jax, and he just lacks in that straight up damage, especially since Aatrox was nerfed relatively recently. He's not going to have much answer to the counter strike, because obviously he will avoid the on hit from his W. Blades of Torment, yes, is really nice, but it doesn't feel to me like Aatrox has the tools to push Jax out early enough to stop him from just getting into beast mode. And he will get into beast mode, and he will just keep pushing and pushing and pushing, being that huge problem that you see it so often. Indeed, that Dignitas themselves love to run. As it happens, though, they have gone for that. But I'm just a little bit surprised they chose to run Aatrox in that respect.
Well, maybe not, because I was assuming that Nitrix would be playing Aatrox top, but they have just locked in the Lissandra. So Lissandra and Swain, we've seen Nitrix using Lissandra a couple times already in the past EUS Challenger series. So looks as though Aatrox probably going to be in the jungle for Impale with Lissandra at the top lane instead.
So, okay, Lissandra top lane is kind of the intuitive choice here, I would imagine. There is actually a possibility it could be a Swain top, though, right? Now, I want to talk about my logic for Swain top, because some people would probably shout at me for it, but the thing is, Swain, viably, you can start with 2 wards, right? So you can start with a Fairy Charm, 4 pots, and 2 wards. His mana sustain is pretty decent in the early game, and he can really, really cause havoc for bruisers in the top lane, because his high damage output and his ability to punish anyone that comes in range of him really, really does work in his favor, and he scales up really, really hard as well, much like a bruiser. He can actually kind of stand toe-to-toe with them, unlike most mages. So, it's not impossible that they could run that, although if they do put DX Alchemist on it, it's telling that it's probably going to be going mid, and DX Alchemist is also the one that likes to run Swain, but Swain top could potentially be a thing this time, but it looks like they are going to go for that Lissandra instead.
Well, the alarm bells may be beginning to ring though for Dignitas, because Dragon has managed to take the Ahri. Now, played Ahri yesterday, was absolutely devastating with this mid laner, was crushing faces left, right and centre, went Zoni's Hourglass into Death Fire Grasp and was just completely decimating. So Dragon with Ahri is quite a scary thing to go up against. Their composition overall, I have to say, is pretty nice actually from FTW. I like the Caitlyn and Lulu picks at bot lane. There's so much harass. It's very difficult to actually stand toe-to-toe with that, especially as an Ezreal who does typically struggle against Caitlyn to start with. However, ladies and gents, we have about 3 minutes remaining on the delay, so we're going to cut to a very quick commercial break, and when we rejoin us, will be live for the grand finale here of the Insomnia Online qualifiers between Dignitas UK and FTW Plex Store. Don't go anywhere, we'll be right back. Hello ladies and gents, welcome back to Chaos TV's live coverage of the I-50 online qualifiers. It is grand finale now between FTW, Plextor and Dignitas UK. I am Metis, joined by Spuddington, and we're already on the rift for game number 1. Spud, how are you doing?
Pretty decent at the moment. It does look like Dignitas are forming up for an invade. I think that there may be some signs in the water here showing that that could be on the cards. Nitrix is actually going to recall, so it looks like it's going to be a late 4-man invade on the blue buff here. That means Shag needs to be very, very careful. And also, Metas, when I was with Nature, I wasn't commenting on it, but he's called Shag.
I know, which if you're a European probably has no relevance, but as an Englishman, as we're both English, Bud, it's definitely a strange one to say. I almost feel dirty for saying it, to be completely honest with you, but it looks as though Insert could be in a bit of trouble if he keeps going down here, because blue is being stolen away from Dignitas UK. He's going to start on Wolves to try and get some XP going into that bot lane. Looks like they want the 1 versus 2 trade-offs. Needs to be careful though, because he's going to get himself caught out of position. Death sentence comes down. Do they want to try and pick up this kill? Counter-strike instantly from Insert. Should be just fine to get away. But that blue buff has been picked up by Impaler.
Yeah, so that actually means Insert's going to walk into lane with a little bit less health. He's going to walk into lane without the XP from the Wolves. And Shag's going to be free to just, sidle on up to this blue buff and take that away. So overall, probably favouring Dignitas just a little bit, but no huge advantage gained by either side. Impaler, actually, though, is only level 1, so I think someone stole XP from him.
Yes, I believe so. He is going to be trying to take up these Wraiths right now, which will get him to level 2, but you compare that to Shag, he's already level 3. So you got to say that Jovan is looking pretty beastly right now, with those double buffs going to be coming around the side, but there is a ward down here, so down anything's going to kick off just yet. Yeah,
DX Alchemist has put his lane kind of roughly where he wants it right now. Swain, very much a late game, mid game champion. You don't have all that much pushing power at this stage of the game, but you also don't have that much damage either. So he's just going to play it fairly carefully, try and avoid being ganked for now, and just wait for his time later on. Contrast that to the bottom and the top lane though, and it's just going to be a pushing race. Both sides are just shoving really, really hard.
Yeah, and just to go back onto the point you just made there about top laners being shoved hard, who do you think deals better with these 1v2 lanes between Jax and Lissandra? Because honestly, I've not seen Lissandra in many 1 versus 2s at top.
Yeah, it's a funny thing actually, because she probably copes better with it than Jax would, because Jax being melee, yes, he has Counter-Strike, as you can see just now, avoiding some of the harass. But he, and yes, he's actually also very, very dangerous in that he can set up ganks with his jungler very well. But Lissandra has much more wave clear. She can farm at a range with both auto attacks and abilities. And that just means her tower is probably going to stay up longer and she's going to get more CS while doing so. That's a little bit of an interesting thing because it means that Jax now, swapped himself maybe into a bad lane. But, maybe there's some logic here I'm not seeing.
Well, it's pretty interesting. I mentioned before that Shag was level 3, has yet to hit level 4, he's going to go into mid. So he got the early advantage in terms of XP, but he's just been waiting around mid for a very, very long time, and is yet to really pick anything up. Hasn't even got the flash away from DX Alchemist. So, although it was looking a bit precarious early for Impaler, he's actually caught up and gone slightly ahead now of Shag in terms of XP.
Yeah, and indeed, he's now positioning himself so that he can go for this wolf camp here and then look to synchronize his gank on the top lane with Lissandra returning into lane with good health, with all her summoners up, and with a lot of damage and crowd control to set this up if they choose to go for it.
Yes, they are looking to make this a play right now. Lissandra will be going in first. Ignite has been used on Crons, but they're instantly turning this one back around again. So Nitrix and Impaler both flashing up, and they're just going to be forced to back away. And this is one of the main strengths of this duo lane. Meanwhile, at bot lane, looked like FTW were going to try and return the favour, but didn't quite pay off.
Yeah, so Dignitas' top lane with the jungle in tow. I think both of the junglers are just going to stay in those lanes now. They have comparatively little to achieve by trying to gank mid, and that's really the only option they have. And probably Dignitas is going to... Oh, wow, he got popped. He's going to have to use that superior wave clear that Aatrox has to try and keep the tower up as long as possible. But I think both of these towers are going to fall at more or less the same time.
Yes, it looks very likely. Both towers are around the same hit points, and you're going to have Jarvan just staying at bot lane for a bit longer, trying to keep this tower alive as long as physically possible, because as you said previously, Impaler's Bloodwell was popped. That's the passive Aatrox, no longer available, and that's just from the consistent spam ability from both Lulu and Caitlyn. Now, it's going to be first blood on towers going to FTW Plextor, and doesn't look like it's going to be repaid in kind from Dignitas UK just yet, Spud. So, question now, can this duo lane go to bot and save the tower? It's going to be really tight.
I'm inclined to say no, but it's not impossible. Even if they did, it puts Dignitas in a bit of an awkward situation, because Lissandra, yes, she will now push up, but will she be able to deal with Jax when he gets up there? Because he's just about approaching level 6. And see, Insert, trying to hold on to this tower as long as possible. Samwise tanking that out. They are going to just try and save the tower, but not be there in time. Now, actually, the question is, do they dare go for Dragon? Because Samwise and Yero have not shopped.
They haven't. So in terms of raw damage output, that's a BF sorted Caitlyn versus a Doran's Blade Samwise on Ezreal. So Caitlyn's just going to do a lot more damage, as you say, because they've not backed just yet. But they're going to be doing that right now. And with Jarvan on red buff, there is no chance right now that FTW will go for that Dragon. So looks like Dignitas UK are going to be by and large pretty good.
Yeah, maybe just a slight error of coordination there. If they had all the men and all the horses in the area, then maybe they could have made that work for them. But as it happens, they will be okay with that situation after all. Swain is now level 6, and that means he's starting to get quite scary. But he has actually lost quite a significant CS disadvantage in this mid lane as well.
46 to 61. So maybe some of that camp in mid from Shag has paid out a tiny bit, but I would say that when Swain has blue buff and Ravenous Flock, which is his ultimate, he is going to get quite nice amounts of CS going into the mid to latter stages of this game. So will Dragon. Of course, Orb Deception's going to crush through creep waves like it was never there in the first place, but still, I feel like this game is just incredibly close, but it's been pretty much neck and neck from the very beginning.
Yeah, that's kind of what you'd expect. Both of these teams are the dominant teams that we've seen throughout this bracket. They've both been really, really, really solid and just showed themselves to be, honestly, on a level above most of the other teams they've come up against. Indeed, considering it's a UK, this is the UK scene, essentially, because Insomnia is a UK tournament. Actually, DX Alchemist in mid.
Yeah, ultimates being popped aplenty here, and Ignite as well. This Dragon will flash through the wall. Beautiful timing from Shag. Looks to be picking up this first blood. And talk about in the nick of time, in the right place at the right time. Now, there's going to be first blood coming up for FTW, but that was really close.
Bot lane.
Yeah, bot lane looking similar as well, as Deathnear is going to be very close to death. Double kill actually coming in from Aatrox, so nice start here. And a nice retaliation as well, has to be said. First blood to FTW, but instantly Dignitas UK go and just crush bot. Looks like it could transition itself nicely into a free Dragon as well.
However, Shag is continuing to push his way into this mid lane, so he will be able to do some significant damage to that tower if he wants to. Does look like he's actually going to maybe look for the steal. But yeah, as I was saying, actually, Samwise is going aggressive.
He is really trying to just push Jarvan away, saying you're not going to steal this Dragon away. We don't want to go for that 50-50 smite war, and that is going to be Dragon. So nice damage being put down now actually as well from DX Alchemist. Flag and drag through the wall right into Swain. And that is going to be Samwise actually auto-attacking before Swain gets the damage overtime kill. So they pick up a Dragon, but they do exchange a kill on top of it.
Yes, so DX Alchemist now with that blue buff, which he has just picked up, and Lissandra pushing in this top lane, actually doing quite a good job of defeating Jax one-on-one with the... Wow, that's a very big CS difference between the two of them, and actually kind of surprising to that end. But yeah, as I was saying quite a while ago now, both these teams are pretty much the dominant teams, and I don't think Dignitas UK are actually used to being competing for an Insomnia position with a, you know, and actually having, honestly, a challenge at all.
That is true. I mean, Dignitas UK, back when they were known as British Tea Time as well, have by and large been, I wouldn't necessarily say dominant in the UK scene, Spud, because there's been a couple of other teams out there as well, such as Animate, for example, but they've definitely been top tier. So to see FTW actually giving them a run for their money in the early stages of this game, obviously is awesome from a spectatorial viewpoint, but I'm not too sure Dignitas UK were expecting to see this kind of form coming out from them.
Yeah, it kind of depends how much research they've done, because it'd be foolish of them to underestimate it actually going into the mid.
They are. The tower has fallen. The question is, do they want to try and jump on top of that? Beautiful death sentence from Thresh. Will be securing that kill, living up to its name. Destiny in it is now flashing up red. Here comes Lissandra with the Frozen Tomb. Double kill for Swain. And 3 kills in total for Dignitas UK. So as we're just talking about FTW kind of stamping their claim on this game, Curse of the Commentator strikes again. That's going to be 3 kills and very likely actually 2 towers in mid.
Yeah, that's a very, very, very big sudden swing, and they've got massive wave clear, massive pushing power. They will take that tower very quickly indeed. Jax is committed at the top lane, and suddenly, yeah, like you say, Dignitas now suddenly looking very, very dominant indeed, because that's put them, what? That probably swung about 3,000-4,000 gold in that quick exchange.
Yeah, 3 kills plus 2 towers, that is absolutely brutal. And I can't help but feel that, yes, it was a really good engage. The Swain snare came down and locked up Caitlyn, but it was that death sentence, that beautiful Yarrow death sentence that landed on Kronz and did not allow him to escape from that fight, and they instantly popped him. And from there on in, it was just one-way traffic, Spud, and they just cruised down the mid lane. They've picked up both those towers, which not only in terms of gold is that good news for Dignitas UK, but map presence as well. It's going to be so much easier to go into the jungle of FTW, steal away all their wraiths, steal away all their blue buffs, and the like.
I think it's actually worth noting as well, though, that in the previous game, which was earlier on today, where we saw FTW, actually, Nitrix has been encircled.
He has, and he's got Insert and Shag on top of him. That's going to be Ignite pop down. Can Nitrix survive long enough for Impaler to get up here and help out? Has been snared. Insert, but it's just not looking good, and that is going to be a kill. Impaler does not want to go in for that 1 versus 2.
Yeah, Insert Shag, they're getting a very good combo off, but it looks like they're going to be going for Dragon, unable to get that hook off. And I want to just note in the game before this that you were not casting, which Nature and I were, kind of looked a bit iffy for FTW for a while, but then what happened was Dragon, who was actually playing Katarina at the time, really started to make huge plays and just completely turned the whole game around on its head, just on the grounds of his individual plays. So if he starts to get any kills here on a playmaking champion like Ahri, I think he'd be one to watch.
Oh, absolutely. Fully agree with you, Spud. And as I said in Champion Select, myself and Pulse were casting him yesterday on Ahri, and he pretty much single-handedly carried FTW to the win. It was brutal to watch the amount of damage. Was landing perfect charms on AD carries and AP carries as well in 5 versus 5 fights, flashing in often to land the charms. So definitely a playmaker, and if you give him a chance, he will certainly start to snowball this game. Even though the last few moments of this game have definitely been in Dignitas' favour, it's still pretty close. However, they need to stop, they need to plug these objectives from falling down, because that is one way that Dignitas will snowball this very quickly. Are you there, Spud?
I'm an idiot, I muted my microphone. I haven't had any caffeine today. So, you know, Shag actually getting potentially caught out by DX Alchemist, but yeah, looks like Dignitas were trying to siege down that bottom tower, but we're not able to. But one thing I want to note is just how much damage DX Alchemist is doing with just EQ. You know, just like maybe a couple of birds from his ult, he took off more than half of Caitlyn's health.
So I'm just laughing a tiny bit at the chat right now, but Cataclysm was actually used from Jarvan, playing aggressive, just pushing away Dignitas UK and keeping them in their place. But, you know, we were lucky in a sense, Spud, that we've casted Dignitas UK a lot in the past for our EUS Challenger Series and such, and they are a team that are very momentum based, I feel. That if they start to get ahead, they're extremely good at finishing games off. So I think FTW need to be careful here, because they are teetering on the edge of Dignitas UK flying down that hill and turning this into a snowballing victory. Lysandra has picked up Azoni's Hourglass, which is always a nightmare to play against. Ezreal with Triforce as well. They're starting to get a few spikes in power.
Yeah, and now it looks like they have the Dragon Timer, and they should be able to pick this up relatively cleanly. Samwise is just hanging around in the area, and actually FTW are nearby, but this is going to get cleared very, very quickly indeed, and that will go down. But the question is, does Shag choose to fight this afterwards?
Yeah, that definitely is what they're contemplating right now, but the big engage comes off. That's a beautiful Frozen Tomb from Nitrix, just zoning out all the players, and Pela in the meanwhile is running right down the center. That is a 2-for-0 trade, plus the Dragon as well. So just not looking too good. 3-for-0 now, 4-for-0, just Caitlyn remains and is forced to run back to her own tower. So Dignitas UK again just leaping ahead in this game.
Yeah, that was really, really good there. That Frozen Tomb, like you mentioned at the time, cut the fight in half, and FTW clearly didn't even want to fight that in the first place. They kind of got forced into it, and that just cost them so much yet again. Goal difference now up to 7,000 between the two teams, which is already very, very significant. And it's only looking like it's going to get bigger at the moment. The FTW need to put the brakes on now, or they are going to suffer badly. Worth noting, though, this is a best of 3, so even if they do lose the first game, there is another one at least yet to come.
That's a very good point. And, you know, even if Dignitas UK do stomp and romp home with this game, FTW, they just have to brush themselves down and say, okay, first game didn't go too well, but if we win the next 2, then we still win this finals. That being said, though, Spud, they're still not out of it. Yes, it's a pretty crippling difference in gold. 29.1 to 21.8 at 17.5 minutes is serious kinds of gold disparity. But we have seen teams come back from worse than this. FTW, as we said, they have a few key playmakers that can turn games on their heads. Dignitas UK, in the past, in the EUS Challenger Series, have made a few lapses in concentration that has thrown games for them. So if FTW can just knuckle down here, dig their nails in, and stay into this matchup, they definitely have every chance of pulling it back.
That's actually been one of the points that I think Dignitas kind of acknowledges they do need to work on themselves, is that Yero has a nasty habit of getting caught while warding, and that's something you want to do a lot of as a support, especially when you're a far ahead. You've got lots of map control. With characters like Ahri can punish it really, really hard. Shag actually going for Alchemist.
And they're doing this because Nitrix is at top lane without a teleport, so they're trying to jump on top of this advantage. Impaler is running away, Blades of Torment and Dark Flight come through, however, and that is going to halt this onslaught. The invaders have been repelled, but for a few milliseconds that was not looking good. Impaler, however, could very well take the prone position, and that's going to be Nitrix jumping in by his lonesome, has made the move down from top lane, instantly popped Dragon, who is that key talisman of their team. That's going to play no further part in this fight. Down for 30 seconds, now focusing on the AD carrier of Crons, who's forced to flash away alongside Shag. Not looking good, however, because you've got Impaler chasing you down with boots of mobility. That's a very scary prospect to face off against. 90 caliber net will be landing, and the trap is down as well. So Crons could potentially escape if Impaler grows a bit bored. That's not going to be the case. Barry's been popped as well. I'm not too sure about that because I don't feel like Crons should be able to escape this situation. Constantly slowing Impaler down. Going to be waiting in this bush, and that's going to be the kill.
Is it? No, yes it is. Okay, but Dignitas in the meantime are actually pushing this mid lane in. It's just going to be a 1-for-1, and somebody just timed out, which I'm hoping was just Ruben's laptop. So, Swain fighting off against Jax in the top lane, but that's just going to be another kill going to Dignitas. Getting on for 10k gold now, 9k actually at the moment, but it definitely seems like FTW aren't able to slow this down at the moment.
Yeah, it's certainly not looking too good. In that fight, Nitrix eventually came down from top lane after the Cataclysm and a few more abilities were burnt, just trying to kind of make something happened out of that 4 versus 5. But the problem is that as soon as the engage finished and Nitrix came down, they were actually weaker because they'd popped a couple of ults, because they'd popped a few abilities, and Nitrix got a full combo on Dragon, which insta-killed him. Dragon has Deathfire Grasp, not Zhonya's Hourglass, so if you catch him, he's going to die very fast. That's pretty much what happened in that fight, and as a result, everyone ended up dying.
Yeah, an unfortunate circumstance indeed. Alchemist now... Oh, actually, we got GG coming in. Yeah, they are giving up on the situation. 4 for 1 on the surrender vote there. So, first game in the best of 3 goes to Dignitas UK. Fairly quick game overall. I feel like FTW really never got started properly that game.
Yeah, it was a bit of a strange one to surrender there. I mean, I can understand why. 20 odd minutes and nearly 9,000 gold behind. That is serious differences in gold and items, plus towers as well. But I still feel that, you know, maybe they could have just dusted themselves down, chilled out a tiny bit, and been planning towards that next game. However, that being said, Spud, if you're kind of demoralized and you know the game is going to be lost, some teams just want to get it over and done with. They don't want to focus on the bad. They want to just jump into the next game.